Hey, Pepper Chess, I can see you now. Woo! Thank God. Okay. And we're about to start with you too, aren't we, Pepper? So, what is this today? What are we here for? We are here to celebrate people. We're here to celebrate people, and we're celebrating the fruits, the rewards, the measurement of the work that they've done. The work they have done may have extended over the last 3 weeks, the last 3 months, the last 3 years. But at some point, all this work that they have done has improved their chess abilities, and they have recently come up 100 rating points. And so we are graduating them from one group to another. So let's go to our graduations. We covered all the players under 1,000 yesterday. Today we're going to cover all the players over 1,000 who've graduated this week. You can see there's a lot. Fondly remembering everybody from yesterday. And here we go. Today we are starting with Pepper Chess. Yes. So this is Pepper Chess's 6th graduation. 6, folks. And scanning here, it looks like we've got some other multiples too, right? Not to take away from the uniqueness of Pepper Chess's achievement, but it looks like we've got a lot of achievements to celebrate here today with some very achieved people. One graduation is a major achievement and milestone, and multiple is great. We definitely expect that this can happen. You know, like we didn't make this training program thinking like we'd get you 100 points and call it quits, did we? So we definitely are not surprised by your 6 graduations, Pepper. It's what we believe is possible. And thank you for proving it. Thank you for proving it. I imagine you've enjoyed proving it. Let's see what Pepper Chess is saying today. Pepper Chess is also in chat if anyone wants to talk to them over on Twitch. I've switched my preferred rating to Lee Chess. I find their classical games easier to find an opponent. Also, 30-20 seems to be a sweet spot for finding longer time control games online. Great. All right. Actually, one thing I wanted to click on before we get into celebrating each of these individual people. Let me just see. Can I? No, it's not what I want. Maybe it's under scoreboard statistics. I want to see how many rating points we've got total right now. This is the total rating points gained in the chess dojo in 3 years of this training program running. Although the first year it was in a spreadsheet. I'm not sure if we've got all those points tracked. But in any case, I know there's no comma here, but I'll parse it for you. It's 173,000 rating points gained. Yeah. 173,000 rating points gained. And down here you can see something like how much work was done, right? So this is where we divide the thousands of hours. 78,000 hours of training time. 78,000 hours of training time. You can calculate that people are getting a little bit more than 2 rating points per hour of training. Overall. On the other hand, you'll see that the people, doing the most hours of work are slightly more higher up here. It takes more time to do more work. And then the average rating points that they gain are less and less. So points are chess strength is kind of logarithmic, right? Like at first, you can put in 10 hours of work and gain, 50 points of strength. And then midway through your journey, you can put in 100 hours of work to get 50 points of strength. And eventually you can put in 1,000 hours of work and get 2 rating points worth of strength. Hi, Red. Stick around and you'll understand it soon enough. We are celebrating folks who have graduated from one training program to another. Well, maybe you don't know what a training program is, Red. Here, I'll show you something. So we have training plans here for all these different levels. So somebody between 0 and 300 would have one training program, and someone between 3 and 400 would have another training program. So if we clicked here, we go 700 to 800, and we can see here all the things that they're supposed to do in order to reach the next level of 800, right? And we can click on all this and see all the tasks that they need to check off and do. Then we could go from 700 to 800. If they graduate, they go to 800, 900. And now they've got a different list of things to do. So that's what we're talking about with graduation here, is we've got people who were in a certain level. Oops, let me go to all of them again. So, for example, we've got people who were in 0 to 300 moving up to 300, 400. People who were in 700 to 800 moving up to 800, 900. The way they move up is that their rating actually went up. So whether they were tracking their FIDE rating, their chess.com rating, their lead chess rating like Pepper, etc., their rating has gone up 100 points, and now we're moving them to a new training program. And before they get back to work, although most of them are probably already back to work before we even air this show, but as they move from one hard list of work, and you may have been able to scan there for a second, as they go from one chunk of like 40 tasks that might take them 800 hours of work onto another chunk of tasks that will be another several hundred hours of work for them, we say bravo, because they've done some real work, some real effort. What website is this? Ours. ChessDojo.club, because we really like chess clubs, so we put in .club, to make you think about chess clubs. Hey, Panda Chess Tamil, why don't you join the training program and see what it tells you to do when you're rated 1100? Go to the training program. I've already put in my hundreds and hundreds of hours of work to create the list of things that you should do. I can't repeat it on every show. I can't restate the whole training program verbally on every show, I wrote it all down so it would save us all time. So, chessdojo.club. I don't know if I can post links on YouTube, but if you go here, yeah, you can have a discount. You sound like you're in India from the word Tamil. Is that correct? We have reset the prices in India. Just about a week ago, we figured out how to set different prices in different countries. So now the price in India is 50%. You don't even need a special code. Just go there on your computer and the price will be half as much as what everyone else in the world pays. Home of Vishy. Yep. Eventually, Tom John, we're going to do it from some other countries. You are in the Philippines, right? That's on the list of countries that we will create a different price for eventually if it works out. If the India experiment works out, we'll extend it to other countries as well. What's your rating, Papa Mangudai? I can look one thing up for you, but then we got to get on with celebrating Pepper Chess. You understand? We need to celebrate Pepper and the others here. Oh, look at this from Guiyao. Hello, Jesse. Oh, you're going to be disappointed, Guiyao. Jesse's not here today. 1200 Rapid on chess.com. All right. So let's go to a training program. I'm just looking it up for you. You can't see the full training programs without a paying account. So I'm going to look it up for you, Papa. In tactics, you should have a Puzzle Rush 5-minute score of about 25. And you should have a survival score of about 40. That's about what level you should be on, all right? All right, let's get into it. We're going to start with Pepper Chess. Woo, Pepper Chess, congratulations. Bringing those rating points home to the dojo. All right, so check it out. The Lee Chess rating has gone up 383 points, but it doesn't tell the story. Pepper Chess recently switched from chess.com Rapid to Lee Chess, right? Look at Pepper's overall improvement in the dojo here. Pepper's been with us since very, very early on in the training program, right? Look at that. We're back in 2022 here. Pepper Chess has gone up 550 points. Not bad, huh? Not bad. Panda Chess says that the Chess Dojo thing is cheaper than some Gotham thing. Good. Good. Glad to hear it. I mean, honestly, we think our price is very low. And we're not yet making a living wage. But one day we might get there. In the meantime, we're having fun and people are gaining rating points. All right, 550 points there for Pepper Chess on chess.com Rapid. Now Pepper Chess is working on the Lee Chess rating, 400 points there. And the next graduation on Lee Chess would be in another 60 points. So frankly, Pepper, I could see that happening in 2025. I could see that happening. Let's check out what Pepper Chess has been doing. If you look at the heat map, it's like fighting all the time. Every time you see on a heat map one of these little cross swords, for anyone who doesn't know, the cross swords on the heat map show you any day on which Pepper Chess played a classical game. So, yeah. That's a lot of fighting. All right, activity. We would expect a lot of games and analysis based on all those swords clashing. And time breakdown, we see that, right? It's a lot of games. But Pepper Chess has gotten points for doing succeeding at a lot of the tactics and middle game and strategy tasks. Cool. All right. And recently did the tactics tests. Let's see. How did Pepper Chess do on the tactics tests? Oh, they were brutal. That's probably because it didn't let you reset your checkmate tests, actually. It's just that, right? These ones are all fine scores over here. It's just the old checkmate tests. All right. So, let's look at one of your games, shall we, Pepper? Is there one you want to look at more than another? Or should I just click at the top of the list? Mission to Magnus. Hey, Magnus, buddy. Pepper Chess UK just schooled you. All right. Advance Caro. E6. Now, if I understand this correctly, in this position here, Black is basically playing the French down a tempo. They've played c6 and c5, right? Not sure if this is what is meant to be played, but it defends the d-pawn, but does block a natural square for the knight. However, the trade-off I have is the knight can still go to d2 and be in the center. Yeah, cool. All right, Red and Panda, I apologize. I've got to, do the show and not just answer questions the whole time. We gotta have a look at Pepper's game here, okay? I hope you'll enjoy the show. And I'll answer questions sporadically. But we're going to look at a game here of Pepper's. This is correct, of course, Pepper. Totally fine to support the center like this. And everything looks good. G6 caused you to expect that black wants to play bishop G7 and castle kingside. Good reading what your opponent's up to. By the way, anyone who's not seen an annotated game before, this is what it looks like. Pepper Chess has put in comments here and thoughts about sort of like the ideas in the opening, and then a few moves later I can scan down and see that we're going to get some variations coming up. All right, so knight f3 supporting the center, g6, castles, bishop g7, bishop g5. Good move. Fighting for control of the f6 square. Pepper put this arrow in here, so showing the idea. Again, now black is not going to play f6, as it gives me a fork. I'm considering if it is worth it here to lose a pawn but gain black's dark squared bishop with something like bishop f6. But I decide to bring my other pieces into the game. Good call. Bring the other pieces into the game. Bishop f6 looks tempting, but like, couldn't you do something even more tempting with like these two pieces in the corner? Oh yeah, and Pepper's got it right. And what Pepper says is, yeah, maybe black should have tried this f6 move instead. Because once black plays knight e7, it's actually going to be hard for black to regain control of this f6 square, right? With the knight on e7. It's going to be hard. So you can be patient about the bishop f6 move. You see what I mean, Pepper? Like, let's say you play knight d2 or rook e1, if I were just to guess. Those kind of look like good moves to me, right? Let's say you play one of these two moves, which look like normal developing moves to me. Your opponent might play h6, and then you can play bishop f6, and they've spent time on h6, and then you say, okay, well, I'll play this move for free, right? But you don't have to spend your time and energy on the move. Yeah, see? All right, so you go knight bd2 and give yourself a dubious mark. I kind of played this on automatic mode. Yeah, I probably would have too, to bring it to the center. I think maybe in this instance, the knight for one move would have been better on the a file. Okay, that's an interesting idea. I mean, I'm going to say knight bd2 is going to be harsh because actually, like, at a GM level, knight d2 is probably a fine move. And this is just it's interesting you had another idea, which is also an interesting idea. a6 will be played to prevent knight b5, yep. And then you think maybe the knight's better on c2 than on d2. Possibly. I mean, from d2, it could go to b3 and similarly fight for some squares. Here it looks fine. Yeah. But it's basically it's just good that Pepper's thinking about this kind of stuff, right? Even a game that you win, an automatic developing move you played during the game, but then you come back and you say, well, was this the very best one? You know, what were my other options around this point? Well, if you saw the VOD, you saw that I did, right? Strange Comfort? You saw that I most definitely did enjoy. I'll say one other thing, Pepper Chess. A move you could strongly consider is this rook e1 move. It leaves you flexible about the knight moves. And this is a move that gets played a lot in the advanced French and advanced Caro. Are you familiar at all with this move and why it might be good? To stick a rook here seemingly just staring at the back of a pawn. Normally, the basic, like Rooks 101 is you look for a file without pawns and you put the rooks on the file without pawns, right? That's Rooks 101. Okay, so rook e1, very big deal in these positions, and it's because of an old principle at this point of Nimzovich's, which at the time was hyper-modern, and which honestly some people still don't understand to this day, even grandmasters of the caliber of Yasser Seirawan. It is overprotection. It's overprotection of the key pawn and the key square on the entire board. White's entire position and strategy is focused on one square here. We can take the rook to f1 again for a second. There's one square on this board, which is the number one most important square on the board from White's perspective. Look at the pawn chain, right? What's the idea? It's for this pawn to be so strong that it's going to cramp Black's game and give you a kingside attack. Does that make sense? the whole strategy is focused around that pawn. That's your whole setup and idea. If you can keep that pawn strong, the idea is you will eventually get a kingside attack. Somehow, some way, it's going to come. Okay? So, rook e1 helps overprotect that pawn. And once that pawn is overprotected, and this is the part that people are like, oh, Nimzovich is just talking about magic. He's hand waving. He's making up nonsense. Some people really think this. Like Sirawan, I've heard him speaking about how it's nonsense and it doesn't exist. But what's going to happen once we overprotect a key point in the center like this? Well, for one thing, if your opponent manages to play like f6 and trade the pawn, you're going to end up with an outposted piece on that square at the end. That's one of Nimzovich's ideas. If you successfully challenge my key point, then after we trade pawns, I'm going to use it as an outpost for a piece. Why? I'm going to have it controlled in advance, right? Because I've been overprotecting that square. Right? A second thing, sometimes the rook here is going to dissuade f6 because of pressure against e6. You see what I mean? So sometimes your opponent won't be able to play f6 because you take, and then boom, you win the e6 pawn while they're recapturing. Now, it also has some specific other things you can do. You can sometimes try and put a piece on d6 or f6, and then when the pawn trades, you feel the power of the rook that was hanging out behind there. This position here is an example where you go rook e1. If your opponent is bothered by this piece, something like this might happen, and you'll find your rook well placed on this file as that happens, right? Finally, rook e1, by overprotecting this pawn, sometimes creates this indirect threat, or not indirect, maybe kind of direct here. It may sometimes create this threat of taking on c5, which may force your opponent to sort of respect whether or not the c pawn needs to be defended. You see what I mean? And it's basically it comes down to this. Imagine you've got a pawn that's attacked twice and defended twice. Can the defending pieces move? Can the defending pieces move? And the answer is only at the cost of like a sacrifice, right? So if you've got a good enough opportunity, you can move your pieces away. But in the normal course of things, your pieces are sort of tied down to defending. And that's why a lot of people also don't understand the strength of overprotection. They say, oh, your pieces are just sitting around defending your pawn. That sounds very passive, right? Like you're defending, your opponent's attacking your pawn structure. You're under pressure. But here's the thing. Overprotection kind of flips that thing on its head. If my pawn is defended by 4 pieces and attacked by 2, can my pieces move away? Now the answer has changed, right? It's essentially at will is the answer, right? I've got 4 pieces defending e5. I can go do whatever I want, right? Those pieces can go somewhere just to have a party, a fiesta. They don't need to do anything important, then they can come back. The d pawn is one of those pieces, and rook e1 is liberating it. So if you go rook e1 and your opponent castles, you can take their pawn over on c5. Now, if rook e1 truly threatens to take the pawn, you might see your opponent play a move like c4, taking all the pressure off your center. Really good for you. Or you might see them trade. And then castle. Now, if they do, how is this related to the question of knight a3 or knight to d2? If they trade on d4 to avoid d takes c5. Now we come here. Well, now that's a heck of a change, right? Now we come to a really good square, and we're still threatening knight b5 to d6. So they're still going to tribute you a tempo. You're going to go rook c1, and now they need to worry about this. So that's my little spiel on overprotection for today. I know the show was called Graduates, not Mini Nimzovich. But Yeah. It came up. It came up. So you could develop the knight in these directions, but actually one of the most critical and fundamental moves to play in these structures is rook e1, and then you can choose the direction for the knight next move if you want. Be flexible about the rook. All right. You played knight d2. Your opponent played c4, which prevents like knight b3 kind of ideas and grabs space on the queen side. But this is also a very welcome move for you because you're going to be able to... Your opponent's going to do this thing, which is super slow, but you've got no pressure on your center now, and you can just go for an attack. c2, h6. I'm happy to dance around. Oh, this move is not good. You expected a better sequence. h5 is more challenging. You were going to play h3 and tuck in here. Yeah, I think also in this position, Pepper, you could play h4. That keeps like a little more space for your pieces compared to h3. In any case, this pawn here being unchallenged, black can't win a fight on the king side. Period. So you're happy to fight even if your king's here. So I'd play h4. If they take, we're coming back to this stuff, right? And if they push, I think you can put your knight somewhere super aggressive this way. Pressuring f7. You're ready to play f3 to attack more on this file. And that looks beautiful to me. And if they ever play f6, your knight's in a good position to pressure e6, right? So you go after this pawn. But obviously that was still a couple moves away. But just in terms of the annotation, it seems like you had a good plan, but you could make it even stronger with this. And you were right to be looking at h5 for the opponent. That's the only really threatening move. What they did with g4 is not at all threatening. Bishop now back on. Passive move, I think white is better here. I'm castled, secure king. Black maybe should have considered b6. I think they are considering this. They just moved the queen first, no? And send the king this way because this side of the board is going to be terrible for him. But black's position is bad no matter what they do because of your space advantage in the center, which is uncontested. You can get the advantage here or here. Both sides of the board, actually. So yeah, you're looking good. f3, open up my rook. b5. Not sure what this does. They want to push it again. Yeah, but I'm okay. I think I win a pawn here. Looks like you did. Protects this. Bishop h6 maybe? Nope. Oh, no! Black resigns. You've used nearly 23 minutes in a 30-20 game in 18 moves, so you really spent time on it. Black was moving fast and only used 4 minutes. Yep. The person... Yeah, if you think for 23 minutes and they think for 4, they need to think 5 times as well as you to be in the game, pretty much. And they didn't think 5 times as well as you. And that's how you graduate, folks. G to the G from Pepper Chess. All right, moving quickly right along. Our next graduate is No Aji. Perhaps a Go player as well. Yeah, so Skibix has a question for me about my Najdorf course. Do I think a noob in tactics should play the recommendation against Bishop G5 in the Najdorf course? Ah! Pepper Chess, I can't read Skibix. No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much for your support, Pepper Chess. I hope that you also feel supported by us. Woo! Okay. So Skibix's question is, I've got this Najdorf course with sort of like a recommended simple repertoire for black against e4. Do I think a noob in tactics should play the recommendation against bishop g5 in your knight? Of course. I'm cool with all the other lines, even the pawn storms, but I think the Polgaevsky is too chaotic for me. Have you tried playing it, Skibix? Yep, they're waiting for you, Strange Comfort. They're waiting for you. We'll see you up here soon. Just once in classical and you got smacked. Okay. Because I would say, Skibix, like, anything like that, you can try it, right? And if it's really not your taste, yeah, you don't have to do it. But I don't think that somebody who thinks of themselves as a tactical noob necessarily needs to stay away from openings like that. It's a question of your taste and your enjoyment. Because if someone thinks they're a noob in tactics, so they play, you know, the Kali system every game with white and with black, how are they going to become an un-noob of tactics, right? We had this barn burner game yesterday, and we were in the under 1,000 group, right? So we have to assume that both white and black were somewhat noobs of tactics to some extent, or at least were recently noobs. And one of them was an 8-year-old girl, so by definition, she's kind of like new to everything because she's so young. She can't have been playing for very long. And they played this insane tactical game where they were, you know, sacking pieces, and then they were leaving queens hanging, trying for like fancy forks and checkmates and things like that. And the tactics, that's nothing against Kali players, right? Cross is just, I'm just saying, like, how do you get better at any skill that you don't have, right? When analyzed by the player, they found that they had made mistakes at many points in the game, right? Like, for example, they played this brilliant queen sack. The opponent could have taken it. The tactical idea was to then fork the opponent's queen and win back the queen, but in so doing, you were ending up down 2 pieces. You know, you were having 2 of your pieces captured in the meantime. So, you know, did they get all the tactics right? No. Right? They didn't get all the tactics right. But they played such a crazy game. And then they annotated the game, and then they were less of a noob at tactics after the game, right? Because they had both tried the tactics and then gone over them during their annotating period, right? So I wouldn't insist that you play something that just you're miserable with and doesn't match your current appetite for the game. But I do not discourage you from playing something that doesn't line up with your skills. That's how you get better, right? For example, I was a terrible endgame player. And at some point I said, oh, let's play some openings where I trade queens on D1 or D8 at the beginning of the game. Does that match my style? No. Am I a noob at it? Yes. But that's how I was going to unnoob myself at it, right? So, I mean, something can be said about anything, right, Chess Pawn? But it depends on what Skibix wants to do with his chess. And I will say, Skibix, your options in the Bishop G5 Neudorf, most of them are pretty tactical. Like, you're not going to have, like, a super calm alternative, right? You've kind of already sailed out of the harbor, and then you're saying, like, I'm not sure I like boats, right? Let's see. I mean, you probably don't want to play Queen B6, the poison pawn. That's going to be similar to the Polgaevsky in feeling. So, I mean, maybe you want to play something like, you know, Bishop E7, Knight C6. Try and play it like a Richter Rouser, take back on F6 with your G-pawn. But in that case, you could have just played the classical Sicilian instead of the Neudorf as well, if you're willing to do that. But I think, Yeah. I mean, I have in mind kind of a playable alternative line that I could dig up for you. Yeah. Okay. No Aji. After having not made progress for some time, I decided to change my training plan. I switched from playing long games to playing rapid. Interesting. My main focus was to improve simple calculations and making mini plans. I didn't need a long time control to do that, so it was better to play more games. Interesting. I mean, we do up to the 1,000 level have this like blunder games piece where we have people log more games by playing some faster time control games. Okay, so the preferred rating is chess.com, 374 points of improvement, and already about halfway from 1350 to 1450. So honestly, currently on an upswing. We can see the plateau here, right? Where there was like a bunch of progress and then a plateau for almost 6 months-ish, right? And now a new upswing. So the change in training to playing more rapid games does seem to have worked for No Aji. So keep doing it, right? Keep doing it. Overall, I mean, 370 points in less than a year is completely insane. Let's see what you've been doing. A mix. And quite a bit of endgames for... Oh, but time-wise, the endgames is not that much. It's just it was very effective training in terms of points. How'd you get all these points? You did all of them. You read Silman, did all the algorithms. Boom, 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 boom. Nice. In 2 hours? That's an incredible amount of work in 2 hours. Maybe didn't log the time on each of them. Hard to imagine doing all of that in 2 hours. But yeah, it looks like a good pie chart. All right, let's check out a game of No Ajis. Yeah, that's why I think Leviathan. I think probably there was some time that just didn't get logged somewhere in there. I'm going to click on one of the... Should I click on one of the rapid games or one of the slow games? I'm going to click on one of the slow games. Oh, annotating the games. We see comments. All right, No Aji playing the Caro. Knight c3. Good move. Challenging. Good move, holding your ground. Boom, boom. The bishop is awkwardly placed compared to my previous variation where there's a knight on f3 instead. Oh, you think it would have been better for white to trade and get the knight. But your pawn's better on d5 than on c6, to my eyes. That's the other reason. That's why if I were white, I would have done the same thing. I would have just kind of held my ground and kept the pawn structure like this. I decided on how to develop my pieces and decided to begin with the bishop since this is the only spot to put it. Yeah. The other option that was probably considered was like this. Bishop e6, knight f3, knight d7. g6 also looks okay, yeah. Oh, and here we get some variations. White gets a good position. Okay, you're not pumped about that bishop wandering around in the middle, even though it seemed to come with tempo. There it's simpler. White could play knight e5 in response to bishop g4, and then the bishop's just kind of dangling there. B6, Connor McChicken, way back here. I don't think so. Well, I don't. At first blush, I don't like it, Connor, because when your bishop comes here, you won't be able to play c5 without losing your bishop. So your bishop will just kind of be stuck on b7 for a while, won't it? To me, that looks like you're playing into the potential power of the bishop on e4. Like you're playing towards a position where it looks superior to me. DJ Razzle, thank you for bringing the razzle dazzle of your Raiders to us. Hope you enjoyed playing chess today. Feel free to advertise your stream to us. Since I don't know it, I can't advertise it for you, but feel free in chat to tell people what you're all about so they could click on that link and follow you. G6 and G7, and they're developing their dogs. Hanging in the bends. I think it's the wrong plan to push the pawns. It will create weaknesses, and there's no serious threat without queens on the board. Here I debated whether to play c5 or rook e8. I decided against c5 since the e file felt quite weak. It would most likely be possible and give a more sharp position. Yeah, maybe. It's it's an interesting question. If white plays c4 and you retreat and they push and you retreat, we see that sort of e-file weakness that no Aji was worried about. But if Aji wants a sharp game, they can play cd4. You can't take the knight, you know, king here, then move the knight. Now there's no d-pawn coming through and they're okay. All right, good luck with your study. Oh, trying to become a GM. Wow, that's a long road, yeah? Oh, thank you, Jim Jam. That's very kind of you. Very kind of you. I've got another tournament I'm commenting starting tomorrow, Jim Jam, if you want to check it out. It is going to be at 4 a.m. my time, so depending where you live, it may be a troublesome time, but it's the Freestyle Grand Slam with Gukesh and Magnus and others participating, but, you know, especially mouth-watering, perhaps, the clash of Magnus and Gukesh coming up. I'll be commentating here on the dojo. Yeah. 4 a.m. Pacific for me. And I expect the broadcast will last about 5 hours every day. 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific. That's like 7 a.m. to noon on the East Coast of the U.S. And Central European time, I think it's 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. for what it's worth. UK probably an hour before that, right? Noon to 5, something like that. Pepper Chess can confirm. Okay, I think you're right, Noaji. Good thoughts that you could have played c5 if you wanted to. I understand the desire to play rook e8. Also, in terms of knight g5, you'll be able to dodge out of the way and just know your pawn's defended. Knight e5. Now that move really encourages c5. c5 feels much better, Aji says. I agree so much. I think, Noaji, probably as soon as you played rook c8, you were right about g4 being wrong. I think what white should do is play c4 themselves before you play c5. Because you're obviously going to play c5 and c5 is going to be good for you. This move is played to try and prevent c5 because the idea is if the knight moves back, now anytime you play c5, I will push past with d5 and I'll be in good shape. So I'm hoping to keep you from playing this move by playing c4 first. I think that's my first thought as to how white should handle your rook c8 move, you know? If you want a preview of what it'll be like in another 10 cohorts when you go up against me, when you play rook c8, I'll probably play c4. Or I might even play very sneaky. That could also be like me, to play a move like that, so that if you go c5, I go c4, the king's off the c file, so you don't have the cd4 trick, right? You move somewhere and I push. In other words, rook c8 telegraphs c5, and there's a level of player that are going to see that, and they're going to try and prevent it. I love how you played this here for you. Knight b6, improving the scope of the bishop and threatening the a-pawn. Yep. That is true. Your knight was on a good square too, though. You probably have another good move. What would it be, though? I'm considering these moves. A5, rook's double. I kind of like a5. Might be me just being bad and weird, but I kind of like the move a5. The point of a5 is to hop knight b4 and force some action. Maybe get a bishop pair. You know. Yeah, I'm not going to play a4 myself, Connor. It's really just to get this knight b4 move in. Now maybe a3 would deal with me. And then maybe I'll go b5, b4, use that as a hook to try and get some action going anyway. Basically, I'm in the mood for some action. Yeah? You guys feel that appetite? I want some action on the queen side. Okay, knight b6 is played. Looks good. Everything Noaji's doing seems really like super high level so far. So we'll just keep going. Rook was loose in the center. And you get the thing. Yeah. To open up for my bishop. Doop doop. Ay. White's making their life worse with the kingside pawn moves. So what you're seeing here from Noaji is kind of a positional counterpuncher, you know? They're like playing solid moves, and then every time you try and do something, they're saying, oh, now your position's worse than it was before. Good job, you know? So now there's no f-pawn securing the knight. This bishop is about to get opened up, right? And now black's got a passed e-pawn. They didn't even have to, you know, mobilize the majority, advance it, nothing. White came up here, traded the f-pawn for the h-pawn, and now black's center is stronger. This loses a pawn. Oh! Nice. Oh, also notice the evaluation. Black is winning. I'm up a pawn and at 2 passed pawns, so this has to be winning. How to actually move the pawns up, I have no idea. I practice this with only kings on the board, but not with rooks. Okay, well, let's see how they do in this endgame. My king is better in the center, prefers king f6, check Kavutskiy, block. Rook trades will make it easier for you to win here because you are completely winning, so trades are just going to simplify the task. The other thing you want to be ready for is something like rook d7, and for now you've got this, but let's just keep our eyes out. Rook g1, cutting the king off completely. I decided to push the pawn to activate my rook. Yeah, this move does everything you need, so do it. c4, that's not going to hurt too much. I would probably just keep rushing your pawn. It's giving you more scope. Yeah. I understand there's this issue if you go f5, they start checking you. And they could potentially go rook f1 at some point as well. But I think just pushing the e-pawn is good. Trading. Oh, but now white's gotten some counterplay because they haven't been wasting their time. My pawn structure is worse, but 1 rook is off the board and I still have 2 passed pawns. Definitely a concession. Boom. Boom, right? Just start driving it. And if your opponent switches around to dealing with it, you can handle that, right? Or even like this now. So I think, okay, you're completely winning, but it's a little bit of what I call a race ending. You know, on one side of the board, one player is stronger. On the other side of the board, the other player is stronger. Something just happened on the feed here. Looks okay. Sorry, the YouTube stream just blinked for a second, folks. So on one side, black is stronger, on the other side, white is stronger, even though overall white's losing. In these situations, time becomes pretty valuable, and we're spending 2 moves going over here, not advancing our pawns, right? 2 moves without advancing the pawns, and we're hurting the pawn structure of the pawns as far as being able to queen them. So you're giving up a lot of your advantage in order to simplify. I think Aji was aware they were giving up some advantage to simplify, but they thought it was a small amount of advantage to simplify a lot. I would say it's quite a bit of the advantage is being sacked here, and that the time is really valuable too. So this is not as good a plan. Pretty sure. Push the pawn farthest away from the white king. Makes sense. B5 makes sense. G4. C5. Uh-oh. G3. Push. I will lose the pawn race, so I have to go back and defend. Yep. And now you can see that in all likelihood, the game is a draw if white goes this way. Wait, this way, check, takes, G2 here, and black wins. Oh, so the king had to go this way. Okay. There is this chance of drawing, though, folks, basically by playing this move, right? And then here, and you take, and here. I mean, the chances that that the game is a draw are pretty reasonable. Like, what can I do? I can go like here. So one option for white is they just wait around. But let's say they want to force things and come like this and like this and like this. Yeah, that's a draw right there. That's the end of it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm guessing white doesn't go rook g1 here, but I think rook g1 would draw. And that is a good lesson in terms of how much of black's advantage they gave away with rook e6 to g6. If you try to defend the pawn, white goes c7, and then they'll just take, no matter what, next move. Oh, God. No comment on this blooper from white, right? But they give a check, then just come back. Now the black king is up here, escorting the pawns. Nice work. Very good. Okay. Now I got a second chance. I must get my rook to e7 to support the pawn. Oh, you weren't sure you were winning at this point. Your second chance was when white didn't go rook to g1 somewhere around here. When they brought your king, when they spent 2 tempi bringing your king from h6 to g4. There they lost the game. Get a second time. Okay. Good game, Aji. Your understanding of your opening and your middle game, your early end game, like all the positional parts, very, very solid. No openings or chances given to your opponent. Very nice. But you guys saw the technical skill at the very end, right? And the pure rook and pawning at the end. As Aji said in the comments, I don't know how to win this. I know it should be winning. Yeah. Hopefully I mentioned how it was winning. All right, so Dr. Otakon finally got my FIDE rating. Plan to use that as my preferred rating from now on. Woo! Man, I remember getting a FIDE rating was a big deal. Holy heat map, folks. That one is lit up. First FIDE rating, 1594. Should we just like click on their beautiful FIDE card, folks, since they have one now? Look at that. Looks like maybe Switzerland Federation. Standard rating. Let's go to individual calculations. February is available. Weihnachtsopen Allgemein in Zurich. And they scored 1 out of 4 against 1800. 1800, played one player in the 1500s whom they beat. And there you go, you're rated. Beautiful. Well, I hope there's more to come. Hope there's more to come. Obviously, the rating that was being used before was probably chess.com, and that has gone up 355 points in the half a year that Dr. Otakon has been a member of the training program. 200 points of progress early, and then very, very slowly this third 100 point of progress. Yeah. So they've got a few graduations under their belts. Oh my goodness. 6, 7 badges? They started in the 5 to 600 category. And look at them go. It's like a graduation every month. What? Insane. I think they started, probably 1 or 2 levels lower than their rating indicated because they wanted to do all the work. But this is definitely the equivalent of about 4 graduations. So let's see some of these games that are being played here. Or should we look at the activity real quick? That's probably what Jesse would do. Jesse would say that's a lot of tactics, boss, right? Everyone's chess workbook, Polgar mates, 1001 chess exercises. Nice. Let's see if their tactics rating is good or bad. Doing all that tactics rating. Right on par. Okay. Fair. Keep it up just as it's going then. Oh, there you are. Lee chess was your preferred rating before. Okay. Let me go back. And the Lee chess, you've gone up 238 points. But the 1500 starting point is kind of arbitrary. All right. Nice to meet you, Michael. Congratulations on the next graduation. Let's see what your chess is looking like. You got the white pieces playing a slightly offbeat line against the French. DE4, you give some alternatives for black. This move here, you take, boom. Happily give your opponent a pawn. You looked at bishop d2 during the game, but opted for the safer move, which was clearly a mistake. Against higher rated opponents, I tend to choose the seemingly safe option if I can't calculate deep enough. Definitely should have taken more time to calculate bishop d2, as it's clearly the better move. Something to work on. Perfect. So, folks, one of the points of studying one's games, ultimately, is to notice certain things about your patterns and then sort of like have these sort of notes to self, right? Like, okay, next time I'm in this situation, what am I going to do? Am I going to play the safe move, or am I going to calculate a little bit more, or am I going to maybe just trust myself and play the move that seems best even if I haven't calculated everything? That's another piece of it. There's a certain amount of uncertainty in chess, right? Where you're not completely confident black and white in your, 3-move calculations or whatever length you're working on at the time. At some point, you have to play the move that seems to work, even if you haven't double-checked everything or you might be missing something. You always might be missing something, right? It's just at some point you have to play based on what you do see. Does that make sense? Like, good players aren't 100% sure either when they go for something. They know that, like, there might be something that they're missing at every moment. But based on what they see, they will try to play, confidently, in a sense, right? They'll try to play what they came up with. Thanks, Matt. That's weird. Has that been consistent for a while? Maybe I'm turning my head away from my mic. It could be just that, because I'm looking around between two screens. Maybe if I put the mic on the same side, excuse me, this might make a bad sound for a moment. Maybe if I put the mic on the same side as my screen that I'm turning towards, maybe now it'll be more like in the right direction. Although now it's hard to see part of my screen. Okay, so c3 gets played, a lesson gets learned, the queen gets back here and defends c7, which she couldn't have done in case of bishop d2, right? So would have been a big difference. Bishop d2, queen can take a pawn, white can take a rook. A good thing that Michael or Dr. Otakon has done here, folks, is played out in analysis these variations, you see? The variations that were maybe not clear during the game, the variations that caused the doctor, the good head doctor, to hesitate during the game. If you review them later, that helps you to sort of clarify them and like deal with what you weren't sure of during the game, and be more prepared to do it next time, right? By reviewing like how good or bad was my calculation, how founded or unfounded were my fears. Okay, so now we go after knight c7, but black has time to defend it with knight a6. And so basically the game's just going to go on now. Knight f3 gets played. Now we get in there with the dark squared bishop. Oh, we trade a really bad piece. Seems forced as the b2 pawn and the d6 bishop are both hanging. Yes, it may seem forced. But you can actually move the bishop anywhere you want, sack the b pawn, and have a good position. So, for example, here, here, here. That looks like a good position to me. Because black can't castle. This knight is so bad, I don't want to trade it. And I do like bishops more than knights, but this is not my bishop versus knight bias. That bias is like a tenth of a pawn, right? No. This here is a specific noticing that the knight on a6 is terrible in this particular position. Right? It can't go to c5, it can't go to b4, it can't go to c7. So it's really, really suffering. We don't want to remove that kind of problem for our opponent. Let them go gray trying to figure out a solution to the knight on a6, but we're not going to solve it for them. A little detail I found is against queen c3, at first I was thinking of like rook c1 or knight e5, which are good looking moves. And there's bishop e5, queen c4, and then I realized, okay, here we could take the knight. I relieve them of the knight problem in exchange for an entire free rook. They don't get my bishop, right? I get the rook, I leave, the game is over. Okay, so I can tell, Dr. Otakon, that you are not very comfortable with sacking pawns. So you have a choice. You could purposely practice some pawn sacrifices that will make you feel very uncomfortable. Or You could have a weakness in your game forever. It's up to you. It's up to you. Uh-oh. Some direct moves here. But white can't achieve much. All right, and the game ends in a draw. Fair enough. I mean, I think black must have the advantage because white's king and rook are weird. So if I were black, I would probably keep playing. You know, probably castle. But white's got decent chances to hold still. You know, black doesn't have a big advantage, just some chances. So that was reasonably fair, the result there. Good analysis on the short game here by Dr. Otakon. A suggestion here of king e7 exclam. Protecting the pawn. Not sure what white can do here. King stuck in the center, so the best you can come up with is maybe trading queens and playing on in an endgame where black keeps their extra pawn. Maybe. Yeah, once you traded that bishop on a6, it kind of took the sails out of white's game. I think you felt it in analysis here that you couldn't come up with anything great for white after this bishop takes a6 move. Seems forced, and then problem is, and now we can feel suddenly there's no good suggestions for white anymore. Maybe you should have tried to castle queenside here before trading anything more, but your queen's busy defending this piece. Play knight e5, knight here. Defending it. I don't know. Could you maybe just take your pawn back on c5 with your bishop? Just recover the pawn and keep going from there. Yeah, you can. You've got the idea to maybe play queen d6 as well at some point. Or, you know, d4 or something. But you freed your queen from babysitting the bishop on d6. So now you can move her and get this, develop this rook at least, even if you can't get this one yet. Okay, so that would be a way to keep playing the game and not be worse, I would say. But yeah, just trading like this, you're still sort of like struggling for enough compensation for white. And yeah. Cool. Good work on the analysis. All right, next we have David moving up to the 13 to 1400 cohort. 4th graduation, 400 rating points gained in 5.5, 6 months. 6 months. Wow. Beautiful. USCF has only gone up 50 points in that time, so I guess they don't get to play as much USCF. Tactics rating in green means that their tactics level is even higher than their current cohort by a little bit. Yeah, so we can expect more. And check out that heat map. Steady diet of classical games plus tactics. And then I guess this purple stuff is middle games and strategy. So this player, if we look at their activity, there's going to be more middle games and strategy than we're used to. Oh, there's 2 different shades of purple mixed in here. Middle games and strategy and some end games too. Nice. What do they like to do under middle games and strategy? It's About Time, First Book of Morphy, Logical Chess, Most Instructive Games, Modern Ideas. Those aren't all in one cohort, are they? Memorizing the games. That must be books from the previous tactic as well. Winning Chess Strategies. Yeah, that was from work they've done along the way. Got it. So in every level that they've gone up 4 cohorts, and in each level they did their reading. Cool. Very cool. Let's see how David plays. I wanted to learn the Jobava London setup, which I have been learning recently, so I played bishop f4 hoping to transpose in case he played knight f3. However, my opponent played bishop d6 and forced a trade of dark squared bishops, which messed up my plans. Well, they can always do that against the Jobava London, so that is part of learning it. Or any London. Part of learning it is how do you play when black plays bishop d6. E4 instead is, known to be pretty good. And then keep playing a French. Yeah. I think this was a mistake. In addition to exchanging bishops, I also double my pawns. Well, exchanging bishops is not a mistake because it's happening. It's happening. If you try to avoid it, now that would be a mistake. Because to avoid trading bishops, you'd have to play something bishop e3, bishop d2, bishop c1, and actually bishop c1 might be the best of them. Those moves are so bad. So bishop trade's happening, and you think you double your pawns and that's a bad thing. Surprising you played e3 if you thought ef4 would be a bad thing. ef4 is actually perfectly fine. But it's interesting that David played that move if David doesn't like it. I initiated the attack, but I think this was premature. I can confirm that for you. It would be logical to play... Wow, the Stockfish told you to play h4. That's crazy. I was going to say, it would be logical to play something like queen d2. Your human line. Here, here, here. Yeah, that looks fine. Yeah, logical moves are moves like, queen d2, bishop here. Maybe bishop here. Huh? What? Oh, they just noticed their bishop was hanging. The plan was to take a pawn, and then they noticed that they've done this to themselves. Yikes. At this point, after trading knights, I was planning to initiate more trades and transition to the endgame. Sounds good. You're up a pawn. Might as well. Your bishop might be a little better than the opponent's bishop in an endgame, so yeah, it makes sense. Rook here. Queen b4. This was a visualization mistake on my part. I saw queen f4 and planned to respond with queen b7. Should have played h4 and pushed the kingside pawns. What happened to the plan from last move about trading into the endgame? Blah! What? Wasn't this your plan? Hey, Alex. If you had known what, sleepy old owl? Hitting the graduation button is not something that's done on a whim. It is done when one has completed the rating growth. If you've gained your 100 rating points, then you click on that graduation button. I'm a little cold, folks, so I'm going to do some like jumping jacks or something for 5 seconds. Or burpees, or I don't know. Got to get the blood flowing, and hopefully my blood will warm me. You've gained the rating points. You held back on the button. Maybe I should wear more than a t-shirt when it's cold and rainy, huh? That's right, Alex. Got to keep the heating bill down. I do have a sweater here. But I don't think I need it anymore. Yeah. All right. So, David, queen d6. That looks like a spot. You're up a pawn. You wanted an endgame. Your opponent can run away. But the idea is that you take over prime real estate when you're the one who wants the endgame and they don't, right? You can shove your pieces into the best squares, and if they trade with you, you get the endgame. If they run away, you get the best squares. That's why you don't want to chase trades by going to bad squares. If your opponent's just going to avoid the trades, then you're just misplacing your pieces. But this is a good spot, so here you can offer the trade, I think. You have to calculate queen a5, which is a little tricky. Like here might not work out. And if here, this is undefended. Maybe it doesn't work out after queen a5. In that case, White's being let down by lack of development. And that would say that here, we maybe need to play a developing move. But if we play a developing move, this is still happening in time. Should have played h4, you think? But that's not developing. That's not like your real problem, boss. That's not your big problem. Also, that pawn on g5 is defended, and black could take this one. Maybe you should go here to get out of the way of the rook tactics. Keep the pawns defended. It doesn't get us the endgame we want. Not at all. But it makes sense. From here to play a move like bishop e2 or g2 or c4. All right, queen f4, picking up a pawn. Bishop c6, developing nicely. You're not playing Cesar Tamandong, are you? Bishop g2, double question mark. Oh! Now you're in the big leagues, David. Your opponents are playing with fire too. I didn't see this tactic, and after it, I tilted and blundered mate. Bishop e4, boom! Boom! Ay, ay, ay. Well, I don't think there's much of an answer to this move, is there? This is attacked, this is attacked. No, that's GG. Oh, man. But what are you supposed to play here? You're just wrecked. Right? Because you never got this developed. I mean, now you did develop it. That's the right intention. Had to be done before, and it's just too late. But if bishop g2 loses like this, there was nothing you could have done. I don't think it's even fair to give bishop g2 a double question mark. Like, what is White supposed to play here? You could play a move like this to try and get rid of your back rank mate. Check. Here. Here. Nobody really thinks White's going to survive here, do they? I don't think so. No, it's dead. This is where you need to think about developing. This is where you need to think about developing. Yeah. Well, congratulations to you on your promotion, and congratulations to Cesar on a good game here. Your opponent played a good one right there. That's a nice one. That goes into your book, right? If you're black, queen takes h2, queen h1. It's an important thing to think about, folks. You know, your opponents are also trying to collect, you know, great games, great experiences, and so forth, right? This one goes into Cesar's book. You know, of their great and fun games. Hi, US man. Welcome to our show and our channel. This is the Chess Dojo, as you might have read. We're happy to have you join us. All right, well, just keep it going, David. I know you're good on the tactics. You're doing all your work here. I see the activity, so just keep it up. Just keep it up. Up, 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 up. Nice, Tanner, nice. You're gonna make it all the way to 1800 this year, you think? How did the game go, Mahogi? How did the game go yesterday? I'm doing pretty good. US man, Lorena, doing pretty good. Howdy. Welcome. Let's check out what Judo had to say. Judo is thankful for the dojo community, and the power in discussing ideas, struggles, and victories with people at my level and much higher. I've been struggling to raise my USCF ratings. I've been at 900 for the past 18 months, doing well in the under 1,000 events, but not enough to win them, like just short of being able to crush those events. I had 2 excruciating OTB losses where, despite being up a ridiculous amount, my tired brain seemed to shut down and blunder my own back rank. I can tell, though, I am improving quite a bit, and these graduations are helpful encouragement steps. Any advice you have for bouncing back from tough losses would be appreciated. You could do what we just did, Judo. You could celebrate your opponent. Like, we just looked at a game which might have been a tough loss for David, right? Blundering, so to speak, queen h2. I don't think it was a blunder, just the position had already been blundered. But, you know, you, quote-unquote, blundering into a back-rank mate, like David just did, queen takes h2, queen takes h1, you could instead celebrate it as your opponent found, like, a brilliant tactic. Be happy for them. The suspense continues. Ay, ay, ay. Luckily, I'm pretty relaxed about it. I don't think you're too worried about it either anymore. Okay, so you worked a while to get to 1500, and at 1500 you've hit a kind of a plateau. Plateaus are a natural thing, so don't get too upset about it. You know, sometimes your brain needs to acquire new skills and knowledge, but there's sort of a period of processing before you actually can deploy them usefully in competition, right? Before it comes out in a good way. At first, you learn new stuff and you're just kind of confused. It takes a while to all mesh in. So it is normal to have plateaus at various points along the way. It is good to remind yourselves that you've got opponents, right? It is. All right. Let's check out the work that's being done here. 339 rating points up, chess.com, 4th graduation here. Joined the training program in 23. Adult learner in my 30s, coaching an elementary chess program out of Philadelphia. Cool. Looks like it took a little while to get the hang of the training. I mean, this is some improvement. It's 50 points, but it's sort of spread out over a year of work. And then actually more recently, we really had like a surge just in the last, 3-4 months. So maybe the USCF will come after it. Let's see what the activity is, where are these points being made, games and analysis, some tactics, and you like your end games. Let's check out your games. Beep goes the phone. Beeping away. Did I receive your email yesterday? I received 10 emails from you yesterday, maybe 20. Didn't read them. This was my last game in the Baltimore Open. I had been undefeated and lost a devastating game the round before when I blundered a back-rank checkmate, and so I honestly was not in the mood to play and wanted to get it over quickly. The game ended up lasting over 3 hours, and I was totally brain dead by the end. Hence, I made some terrible moves. It's tough to play when you don't want to play. Baltimore Open. Jesse was there, wasn't he? Thanks, Baymon. You okay, Lorena? What happened? Me, personally, I don't have anything planned right now, but I will play a tournament this year, probably. This looks strange, as I don't believe it is usually played when you're playing the Sicilian. No, it's played in certain situations. It's not the best here, because White's going to put the bishop on this diagonal. Oof. Hello. Oh, yeah. It was an email from Donald Trump, Lorena. And the subject matter was, did you read my email from yesterday? And Donald Trump and his interns, or whatever, minions, they send me at least 20 messages every day. Some days I read them. Some days I don't have the time, you know. Depends. King E7. Ay. All right. Judo correctly says this is a blunder. You really need to take the bishop. Like, what's going to go well for you if you leave this diagonal even more weakened? Yeah. Bishop B3 dubious? What? Bishop B3 looks great. Oh, bishop G8 is a tactical opportunity, right? Trying to go for bishop G5 and win the queen. Interesting. Queen G8. Knight D5. King here. Check here, here. This is a long computer line or something. White seems to be doing well. Can take a rook or whatever. Okay, bishop takes G8 might be very strong. And it is true, it's lazy to just play bishop B3 without thinking in these positions, right? It is lazy to play bishop B3. That is what I would probably do. And it is lazy. That's what I would do in a blitz game. In a classical game, I do calculate these moves. And that's one of the differences between classical and blitz, my friends. What else can we say? You know, in blitz, like, you just say, like, okay, I play bishop b3, I control the diagonal, you know, your king's stuck, I will win. And in classical, you know, you look for all your tactical opportunities and try and put people away, and you ask yourself, bishop g5, there's knight f6, any way to improve that, and so forth, yeah. It's lazy. It's boring chump move. It's Alex J. Gustafson's top candidate move. All right, so you got bishop b3, d6, and another dubious. Shouldn't have brought the queen out. But was hoping to get an easy checkmate so I could just be done. Man, judo was really done at this point in the tournament, huh? You can see why they asked, like, any tips for getting over tough losses. Come here and show us your tough losses. Have us all laugh about it together. Yeah, you're just like, let me threaten scholars, mate. Maybe I can leave. Can I get out of here? One thing you could have done would have been, like, withdraw from the tournament. If you didn't even want to play anymore, it's possible. I thought this made sense because it would keep the tempo, but knight's coming out anyway, so it doesn't matter. I just wanted to finish the game. I thought with all these pieces by the king, surely I can find a checkmate. Nope. You're attacking with queen and 4 minor pieces. It's quite a bit, but your opponent's got queen and 4 minor pieces and a pawn sort of protecting the king. So if you really want to knock them out, you should do what they can't do. In this position, what white can do that black can't do is white can get the rooks into the game. Black's going to struggle to do that more. So focus on your advantage. Yeah. Knight d5 is not bad either, by the way. To like get here before they get knight f6. And then when they do this, you can come here. And when they do this, you can take if you want. And you get control of this and force the king to stay here forever. Then maybe something like this, this. And now you have to get the rooks in. Still, you're not going to be able to win the game without the rooks, you know. So the game goes on. This is not like a knockout either, but it's a slightly nicer version of what you did because you've traded the knights in advance, which means your queen and bishop aren't going to get like blocked off in the way. Ay, now black's rook came out, and we're not making much progress. But should have castled, yep. Uh-oh. What are we doing about the white king and the rook on h1? The situation has kind of reversed itself. Before, because white controlled this diagonal, black couldn't get the king and rook organized. Now somehow black has organized their rooks and white is stuck. Oy vey. Feels like the move queen g2 might be even better at this stage. Queen d3. And then you can get castled. Yeah, back in the game. Woo! Nice. Chess Dojo shirt. I kind of want a Chess Dojo shirt. Someone else just ordered a Chess Dojo shirt. This email says, I think. Let's see. Printful. Chess Dojo shirt. Build to Chris. No, build to Chess Dojo. Ship to Chris, build to Chess Dojo. What? I just got this message here. Build to Chess Dojo PayPal account. Huh. Maybe we pay Printful and then they send us money from you or something. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. Anyway, enjoy it. Looks like a good color for you. Dojo tank tops. I don't know if we have tank tops or not. I'm not a merch person. I don't know what the merch is. I don't know the deal with the merch. All right, so queen goes to a6, gets booted about g5. King e2. Here you could have castled, right? Uh-oh. King's just moving back and forth in motion. Ah! Man, this thing's like peppered with question marks from judo. It was a terrible move and gave me life for the first time in like 10 moves. Fe5. Going for rook d6. Pretty good, yeah. F5. King g5. Oh la 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 la! It looks like he's winning here. Oh no, something bad is going to happen. Okay, so if queen takes queen, there's the back rank mate. The saving move was queen h6, defending both rooks. That's a hard move to find. That's a hard move to find, I understand. And resigned here. I guess black took the queen and eventually won. But, oh yeah. Yeah, I see it. Okay, so basically, there's like a very key moment here, which I like to see that judo analyzed right here, which is why is queen g7 wrong? It looks like a thrashing of a move, right? Looks like a great move. The idea is you don't want to let the king escape, so check it on the diagonal instead, right? There's a long calculation of queen h4. I would think that queen g5 would be my first instinct. You cut the king off from an escape square, and then wherever it goes, this rook's going to come in, and you're going to have checkmate in a couple moves. That was the actual game, Leviathan. It ended with white losing after queen g7, which looked promising, you see. But once white got here, they realized they couldn't take... They were chasing the black king off of the queen, and when they got here, they realized they couldn't take the queen because of the back rank mate. And so they went back and calculated this part here after the game and correctly found a checkmate. They went with queen h4. Okay. King e8, queen h8. Nice. Okay, queen h4 works really well too. For sure. I'm sure this move will also be mate, even though I haven't calculated it yet. But yeah, tough break. You can sense the exhaustion in this game for sure. Yeah, basically it is really tough to play chess when you don't feel like playing it. So, you know, how do you avoid getting into a situation like this where you're playing a game that you don't even want to be playing and you don't feel like playing, and then you don't play your best, and then you feel even more like you didn't want to be playing it, and you've got more and more unpleasant feelings and memories about that game and the game before it, etc., right? How do you avoid all of that? So there's a couple options. You know, one option is, as I mentioned at the beginning, to withdraw. Like, if things are going wrong and you're not enjoying it, like, just don't play. Go do something else with yourself, right? Another option that's worked for me, if, for example, I want to commit to playing a tournament and I'm taking withdrawing off the table, right? Like, you're traveling or you're paying some money, or this is your chance to play and you don't get that many chances to play, or whatever the reason might be. You know, you're trying to build up your toughness on purpose, or who knows what. Here's how you can prepare yourself in advance to make this less likely to become a problem. Basically, you know that you have this problem where you struggle to recover from a bad loss. So you set yourself a goal around your weakness. You say, I am going to this tournament, and my goal is to at some point play a bad game, and the round after that bad game to come back and play normally. Okay? So all tournament long, you're just like waiting to play a bad game. Just like, when is it going to happen? Oh man, I won this first round game. Terrible. Okay. But maybe next round. So you play the next round. But like, you know, things go so-so. Like maybe it's not great, but you don't manage to play a terrible game. Right? The game ends up kind of okay. You have a draw. It's okay. The tournament's not over. You still have a chance to play a terrible game before the tournament's over. So you keep going. You just keep playing. And eventually, hopefully, you play like just an absolute terrible game. You're in the dumps, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I did it. I played a terrible game. This is my chance. Now I can improve on what I've been doing badly and wrong in all my previous tournaments. This is it. This is my moment. We got another game to play right now. And this next game is my one opportunity. It's my one game after like the terrible game. And we're going to like bear down. In my experience, having that goal is going to give you the energy and the focus to actually want to play that game. You might be upset about the game you just lost, or you might be pumped, depending on how far you bought into my little mind control there. But regardless of how up or down you are at that moment, you will at least be ready for the moment and want to play that game because you understand and you're motivated to fix your problem. You've probably also got a plan for how you're going to fix the problem, right? To some extent, right? You've got a little bit of faith and confidence and plan and focus and interest, and that should at least allow you to sit down at the board and want to play that game. And I think that's the remedy that we're looking for, to at least want to be playing that game. Okay, it looks like we've got a better tip in the chat maybe. Someone says, I've got a great tip. Get yourself a sweet treat when you have a brilliant move, or if you execute your opening correctly. Celebrate the little wins along the way during your improvement. Exactly. That's exactly a very good tip. Yep. Okra armband, recognizing it. So having some reward system for yourself, noticing and being happy with the things that go well is super important. Baja Blast. Baja Blast. All right. Good luck, Judo. I think we've given you what you need to get one more graduation out there. I know the graduation you really want is 1,000 USCF. I know you want to win one under 1,000 tournament and then go over 1,000, and I think you can get there. All right. Who's next? Step right up. Wild Rook. 250 points, 3 graduation badges. Those of you interested in badges, you know they're making new badges in the back. In the background. Somewhere under the hood, people are making more badges. There are going to be new badges about things at some point. Let's see, we got some classical games here getting played very regularly, and then opening work. It's been with us for 6 months. Dang, some people get busy. Hundreds of points in just months. What does the activity look like? Oh, a lot of points on the end game. Maybe from a previous cohort or period, because right now we've got 7 hours spent on the opening here. Updated and annotated game. Let's go see that annotated game. When was that done? Today. Heck yeah. I've been playing the exchange variation lately to get more exposure to the Carlsbad structure. Yep. and learn the kingside attack. My goal this game were to pay more attention to my opponent's ideas and get a kingside attack going if you can get the opportunity. Out of book. I only have a basic understanding of the moves in this variation as I don't see it very often. Well, the idea is to get your bishop here anyway. That's why you played knight e2. So, good for you. Knight f6, queen c2, castling, developing. My bishops were great here, but my knights were poorly placed. Black will also have various tactics available once they put a rook on the c-file. Boom, they do. Knight b4 threat, queen b3. Good job. Look at the analysis work. Every single move is like got thoughts, comments, and variations. Oh my goodness. That's what I was thinking, Wild Rook. Welcome to the show and congratulations on your graduation. Something was wrong with the heat map, right? Because it showed that you just did your annotated game and the heat map wasn't showing the colors properly. This is a ton of work being done here. Super. Knight g3. Dubious. Gaining a tempo on the bishop, not a terrible move, but the knight ends up feeling misplaced here. Yep. Because there's going to be pawns covering all these light squares, right? Better would be a more flexible rook e1 move. Yeah, also since you've got a queen trade in the air, you can't play like all out for a kingside attack. You have to play the full position pretty positionally, so to speak. So rook e1 makes sense. I like it. You considered taking the queen at various points. You thought it might be okay, but you weren't sure. Yeah, it's okay. Your opponent's going to have doubled isolated pawns, which are not very good. If they take, it's actually good for you because your pawns are nice and compact and connected. Oh, later, Alex. Have a good day. Yeah, I mean, queen b6 looks fine. Rook e1 looks fine as well. Head the knight to a better square there. You fixed one of your knights. Now you back off the trade. And they tempo you. Maybe this would be the moment to make the trade. Wild Rook, just because it doesn't give them the tempo to go knight c4. You get to play this move first. And then they don't get this knight c4 move, which I think is going to be slightly good for them to get in. So maybe like when there's a real reason, give the trade. I do, Lorena. Play anything that you like and then rotate after 6 months and learn something new. That's not super prescriptive. You know, some people like to play the same thing forever, but I like to learn new things, and I believe that ultimately it's good for your development. I mean, the real answer depends on so many things about each person's character and personality, you know. How high are you trying to shoot? If you want to be a gem one day, then you definitely need to rotate through things. If you want to be 1400 for the rest of your life, then you could just stick with doing exactly what you're already doing and never try anything different. It's not a bad thing. I don't say that in a scornful way. You know, I'm just saying, like, somebody who's more ambitious about how much they want to learn has more incentive to, has more incentive to force themselves to learn new things. Somebody who's, like, just having fun exactly as they are doesn't need to do that. Yeah. Right, so the knight c4 has done its thing. Because here you avoided weakening the c-pawn with b3. Instead, you defended the pawn like this. But then they bothered your a-pawn, and finally you played a3. And now you can never play b3 because it'll hang the a pawn, right? So this knight has become very good here. This is incentive enough, to my mind, Wild Rook, that it tells us you should have cut off that knight's journey by getting this move first. Okay, so here we are, queen c6, rook e1, knight d7, h4. I pushed myself to play this move after thinking for a while. When I first started playing chess, I tended to attack a lot, but as I got better, I became more cautious. Yeah, you start learning that these like 2-3 piece attacks don't work, then people become overly cautious, and then they stop attacking at all.
Yep.
But here, you're absolutely right to try to attack. Here, in principle, it makes sense to attack as black's pieces are on the queen side. Yeah. And this pawn break is going to help you even if you don't get an attack, right? Even if the attack gets fended off and you just keep playing positionally afterwards, it'll have been good that you played h4, h5. It's a favorable trade of pawns for you. So it's just like a tiny little progress. Go for it. Bishop a3, question mark. I missed this tactic, but evaluating it, I think it's a mistake. Oh, you don't even take? Okay, so black's idea is that if you take, hits the queen, opens the c file, takes here, and while you have to recapture the knight, they're going to get a third pawn. However, then they'll lose both of those pawns and be losing. So actually, they need to play a move like b6, and you could go rook c1 or whatever and keep playing this position. And that's hard to evaluate if that's good for black or white. I'm not convinced myself with what black did there. In other words, after bishop a3, I'm like, I don't know if I believe you at all. But let's see how good your h5 move is, because maybe your h5 move's better than ba3, and that's why you played it. Let's see, h5. G takes h5 gets a question mark, but you don't say what they should do. Knight g5, excellent. My attack was very strong, either winning or significantly better, though I was also beginning to get into time trouble. In the future, if an attack in the later stage of the middle game is possible, maybe I should try to account for it in my time management. I mean, the fact is, you can't account for everything in your time management, and you do have to be willing to go for things, even if you don't have a lot of time. Let me see what the time graph looks like. Whoa! They started with an hour, and they just plummeted by move 20 couple down to 6 minutes and 1 minute. Yeah, so you both played too slowly in the middle game. That's like pretty clear. Just both players were playing too slow, period. Whether or not a middle game attack was going to come up later on in the game or not, to have like 1 minute left for one of the players at move 25 and 4 minutes for the other, I mean, did you think the game would be over at move 25? Whether or not there's an attack, I mean, you haven't budgeted time for maneuvering. You haven't budgeted time for calculating. You haven't budgeted time for the end game, God forbid. You know, like, there's been no budgeting. So, before you try to do really, really fancy accounting of saving time in case there's this kind of a middle game or that kind of a middle game, how about dividing your time in 3 pieces, 30%, 40%, 30%. Ration yourself 30% for the opening, 40% for the middle game, and 30% for the end game. That's like a super, super basic budget. Because you're going to start doing something way too complicated when you're asking about, you know, should I account for a possible late stage middle game attack in my time management? Then we're going to start doing like, what's the percent chances of this scenario or that scenario, and how much time do I need for that scenario? But you just need time, period, right? Any amount of time is what you need. Right, you're going by how much time your opponent is spending, which is a mistake. Yeah. So for anybody out there, the number one rule of time management is you're managing your time based on how much time you need for the position you have. It has absolutely no relation to the time your opponent has. That time is not in the algorithm. It's not in the calculation. It's not under consideration. Nada. It's just you and your clock. Stop looking at their clock. I know it's addictive. Am I slightly ahead? I'm a little behind. I gotta catch up. Blah, blah, blah. The clock is not a score. The clock is not a score you're trying to win. It's not a mini game. It's not the main game. Okay? The clock is your resources for the position you have. Your resources are dwindling, and hopefully the complexity and the needs of the position are dwindling. And hopefully they're dwindling faster than your resources. And that's how you budget your time. Knight f6 takes. Knight e4 takes. You could certainly consider taking on a3 at this point as well. Takes, knight a3, queen e2, knight b1, queen g4. Doesn't this look kind of killer? Let's see. There's a variation given here. Takes here. Okay. So let's assume this has to be played. This is where the line cut off. I'm just going to go a little further for you, Wild Rook. We threaten mate here. Check to the miserable king here. Bishop. I don't know if it's completely over. Black could just ignore what we're up to. Save this piece. D5 is a fancy win then. A weird one. Not normal. Do we need to throw in this check? We could also go here. Knight c3. Just slowly walk our way in. Honestly, that looks like a slow motion checkmate to me. I don't really see anything that black is doing here. To my mind, it's very likely that pawn takes a3 wins, followed by, they'll be down a piece if they don't take the rook. So we go and threaten checkmate. And then, actually I like this version here and just moving the queen that way. I don't really see anything for black to do. You could also go to f6 next move with the queen, yeah. Yeah. I resigned for your opponent here, by the way. GG. I'll just mention if they throw in knight e2, don't take it. They'll get a queen trade. After knight e2, just, you know, something like this. You just ignore it. What is it doing there? Yeah. So Wild Rook, if you have trouble seeing it, then you have to judge based on instinct, right? And I believe you've got a couple minutes left to play the whole game here. So to calculate queen e2, queen g4, bishop e5, queen g5, queen h6, I couldn't calculate that with confidence in 2 minutes. I'm just too slow now. So what you can say is, I'm going to have queen, bishop, and knight alone against this pawn and, you know, just do that force count thing. You know what I mean? The force count. The force count says you're going to win. I mean, I didn't calculate the win for you either once I set up this position. We haven't put the checkmate on the board. We just got here and our eyes reconfirmed what I had suspected in advance, which is you're attacking with a million pieces against one pawn. So you're going to win. Yeah. All right, so you played rook e4. Obviously, you don't need to take on a3. Things are going well for you. They played g6. You give a check. That looks good. You calculated b takes a3 again. Fine. Always good to do your calculation. Bishop e5 question mark. I felt I was still better winning here, but couldn't come up with the follow-up. Yeah. Not sure if I would have if I had more time, but definitely running short. Right, exactly. I often have these situations like if I had a lot of time, I still don't know if I would have figured it out. But somehow the knight on f6 is not really helping you to checkmate, is it? And the rook on c4 is not getting over here because this knight. Knight's actually quite good. Bizarrely, I wonder if like b3 would be a game-winning move to force the knight to move and then bring the rook on the 3rd rank instead of the 4th rank. Okay. What should be the right move here? I don't know. What you did isn't so bad. Let's just see the game. Good defense. Yeah, I guess the opponent's in the game now, huh? Good. You guys are just both playing great, even though you have just blitzing. Rook f4 question mark. Looks like a good move. Oh, gets out. Dang. They're threatening mate. I was about to start suggesting random moves that allowed checkmate on h1. Luckily, I caught myself. Rook c7. Nice defense. Okay, so the best is to double rooks on the d file, probably. Oh, that's what your analysis says as well. Wow. Great defense by your opponent in this double rook endgame. Rook f8, rook f6, yeah, f5. Whew. And here you've got g5. I was just thinking that. Man, the analysis is great. Oh! Okay, there's a lot of ways to win. This is like the normal way. Wow, the level of this game. Wow. Wow, you guys both play really well, especially without any time. Shocking, truly. Great work on the annotation in the game. A marathon. Obviously, you could look at the endgame more if you wanted to. But yeah, I'm impressed. Some high-level stuff going on. Here's Guilao. Hello, Jesse. Hello, Guilao. What's up, bro? This will be my second graduation, being the first one in late October, I believe. I hope this time I can show better explained analysis. Despite what appears on the graph, I dedicated more time to studying chess. I just didn't log it. All right. Hey, Guilao. All right. Guilao. FIDE rated. 337 FIDE rating points. Oh, but it looks like it's mostly that FIDE adjustment from last March 1st, right? 3 graduations. And there's some stuff not logged on FIDE, but work has been done. So let's have a look at, is it going to show the activity? Shows a lot of tactics, 64 points worth. And the question is, are these games better explained than before? This was the last round of an under 1700 tournament, playing on board 2 with 5 points out of 6. Woo! My opponent, although unrated, had beaten opponents close or above my rating. Okay, these names sound like you guys are in Spain. Event Malaga. That sounds like a place in Spain. Is it an island? The opponent is now 1780. Oh my goodness, yeah. Holding off on pushing the D pawn. E6. Now we get kind of a French structure. Controlling the b4 square so that knight b4 can't harass your pieces for sure. Black should use the c4 square then. Queen e3. Yeah, so now you need a plan for what if black never castles, right? b3, knight a3 tactic, yeah. Here, you thought about pushing the b pawn as well. I think you can push it right away, actually, because, you know, then your queen will come here and you still can play this move. Whereas this way, they had that knight a3 tactic. All right, black can try creating an outpost on c4 again by pushing the a pawn. Yeah. Yeah, in general, you won't be able to play queen b5. There will always be some kind of a tactic. And you want to play here and trade. It's well reasoned and thought through. Guiao. It's a well reasoned and thought through plan, but it's too passive. Like, it's a good plan for defending as if your opponent has the advantage here. We should not act like your opponent has the advantage. We should find a plan that says you have the advantage, okay? Let me see if I can come up with something like that for you. All the reasoning is there. Everything is good about your reasoning, except it's all reasoning for how to defend as if the opening has given black an advantage. But do you think you played the opening badly? Should black have the advantage here? Yeah, I don't see question marks on your moves up to this point, so we should believe in your position. Black's not playing to castle. They're going to keep trying to be strong and play with everything except the rook. Yeah. So like you say, rook c8, a5, that kind of stuff, yeah? They're going to fight you on the queen side. Two choices. You could try to have the advantage on the queen side, or you could try to take some of the attention away from the queen side. Okay. I can't find anything good for white. I think your position's not that amazing somehow. It's weird. Because even if you play like this, you know, developing all your pieces, black can play b4, attack the knight, and then when you trade off this piece of yours. And actually your queen can't even defend it. It's not a trade. You could do something else, and you have to sack this pawn. Okay. Something's wrong with this plan of setting up this battery, I think. It's too much work, and your opponent's not even castling there, and this a3 move is weakening the queen side a little bit. Hard to figure it out. Very hard to figure out. Maybe I'll go back to what I said earlier about just overprotecting the pawn on e5. Maybe this move before you castle while the rook is there, so you can make some progress on this side of the board where you're strong. h4 will let you play bishop g5. It'll let you play h5. Your king can always walk over this way. You can play rook h3. That's the best I can think of today. h4 before castling. Yeah, I like it too. I like h4. All right, let's see more of the game. Queen d3, b5, b3, knight b6, knight e2, a5, bishop f4 developing, a4, b4, rook c8. Go after the b5 pawn, sure. g5, the opponent lashes out on the other side. Goodness gracious. It's a pretty wild move. So I see here you don't play this because you say knight c4 would make it move again, but you can leave it there. You can trade the piece. It's not that good a piece. g5 is, yeah, too bold. Malaga is just in southern Spain, not an island. Okay. Thanks, Jordy. Yeah. I think, honestly, it should go to d2 probably so that the rooks can move more. And if they play here and they take it, so be it. Okay, this gets kicked back. This gets kicked back. Black hangs this pawn, and now you're up a pawn. They really needed to defend their pawn. Honestly, they needed to defend it. Maybe against my bishop d2 move, there might be this idea for black, bishop b4. That might be a decent move for black. But after knight takes b5, white's good again. Yeah, that's not it. g4, knight d2. This is not it either. Black's just losing this pawn. They just need to defend it. I mean, they have to play this move even though they don't want to. But they didn't want to, so they didn't. So now you take the pawn. Things are looking good. You get that bishop off the back rank. That's good. You could probably just trade that piece. Knight c4, it says question mark. You took it. Taking on c4, you say is a mistake to knight a7. Yeah, good calculation. So you go here, exclam. That. Now the rook's just here. Not as good as before. Developing, yeah. h5. 2 pawns up. You know, I think since you're 2 pawns up, you could just plop your queen here and see what how your opponent feels about that. I mean, I don't think they can even trade, right? Because your knight comes to d6, hitting the rook and threatening knight f7, knight h8. So queen d6, and you just sit in the middle of the board like that. Seems pretty good. Nothing wrong with this square, of course. It's also a nice central square. Bishop g5. Okay, that's what's wrong with it. You have to move it again. I'm glad that you wanted to play d5. I felt you wanted to. It's a great idea. Oh, you threatened bishop b6. Give you a pawn. You're up 3 pawns, and now you're simplifying. Here, d6, d7, and rook e8 is the simplest plan. If your opponent goes here, I was assuming that this would somehow be good. Okay, here's a better move than knight e6. Rook c1. And 5 minutes later, I was told I would win the tournament due to tie breaks. Great tournament. Bravo. I feel like you were uncomfortable when the position was locked. And as soon as your opponent played f6, and you took on f6, and you took on b5, it was like everything was sunshine. Everything was sunshine once the position opened up a little bit. So maybe more of a tactical player. Simon Dragon 64, advancing from 14 to 1500 group to 15 to 1600 group, says, so far I've not done any work from the program, but I've been playing OTB. Simon Dragon doesn't even know yet that playing OTB is doing the most important work from the program. I scored 2.5 in the under 1900 section. I plan on submitting my games to the dojo. Good. Good. Submit them. We look forward to seeing them for you. Have they been submitted yet? No. Okay. Sorry, training plan. Activity. Yeah, it doesn't show anything yet here. But we see the ratings moving up. Okay. Well, Simon Dragon, we look forward to seeing your games in the future. Welcome to the dojo. Congrats on the good score at your latest OTB tournament. And here's to many more. Let's check out Dawson Boyd. Adult learner playing chess poorly. Intending to play it less poorly later. Current chess.com rating 1800 with a 200-point rise and 2 graduation badges. And so far tactics rating that's not super high. So perhaps needs some more tactics work. Let's see what they've been prioritizing. The end game. So seeing this, I'm like, oh, you need to play some games, my friend. You need to get out and play some games. Did the algorithm, did the algorithm, did the algorithm, did the algorithm. Read the endgame book. Graduated. Did some Polgar mates. Did some Polgar mates. Okay. Building white repertoire. Okay. So in the previous cohort, it looks like their work was a little bit more mixed, and now they're pounding the end games, maybe. They've done everything. Silman, algorithms. Woo! 4 classical games. Something. That's something. But we don't get to see them today. Nevertheless, we salute you, Dawson Boyd, for your excellent endgame play. And it's nice to have another endgame lover in the dojo. Someone out there sparring those algorithms. I have hours worked, yeah. If I went to dojo points, it would show more. Is that what you're thinking, Wildrook? Some people log the points. Other people log the time spent on it. On this particular, I should click between them, between the views, Wildrook. Thank you. That's a good point. To check on people. But, yeah. And also, the heat map seems to not be showing things right now, right? Because you can see he was just working on endgames this week, right? But when we look at the heat map on February 3rd, we don't see that work logged, right? So it's not showing up. But the work was done. And we had, yeah, it's not the first heat map that didn't show somebody's work properly today. All right, Gregor. From the 15-1600 group up to the 16-1700 group. Whoa, just hit some kind of a zip. Oh no, it's just a small graph. It's 17 points. Lee Chess Classical. Ooh, tactics need some work. Tactics are screaming at you in red. It's good that you did the assessments to check where you're at. But we need to get these numbers up. Fell in love with chess about 5 years ago. Wife and 2 small kids. Not easy to climb. No, it is not. It is not. I see a lot of these sideways chops through your heat map, which means you're doing a bunch of stuff, but it's custom stuff. So if I went to points, not as many points. Still some. Did some tactics, got 5 points in a day. Oh, that's actually quite a lot. Okay, activity, lots of tactics. Reading, reassess your chess. That's what Gregor needs to be working on, is this tactics. So you see, working on the woodpecker, working on the puzzle rush, 5 minutes. Trying to get that score up to 34. Gotta get there. Gotta get there. What's the puzzle rush unlimited score? Let me see. $43 out of 49. So 6 points off, 7 points off. Yeah. And yeah, continuing to work on these, doing chess tactics from scratch, solving the problems from chess tactics from scratch, checkmate patterns manual. There's a lot of tactics tasks here. So that's what I guess you got to keep pounding away at, Gregor, yeah. Ah, no games to see. Hey, Merlin God. Chess Dojo is a community, I would say, of chess learners. We got a Twitch stream, which you're watching, a YouTube stream, which you're not watching, but it's the same as the Twitch stream. We've got videos on YouTube. We've got a podcast, which is kind of like a talk show turned podcast. We've got a training program on our own website, which is what you're seeing in the screen capture here. And basically, fundamentally, it gives people a long list of tasks to do, which, if done, will raise their rating by 100 points. And today's show in specific is a day where we appreciate and honor our graduates, which is people who are moving up from one group to the next group 100 points higher. Every week, there are people graduating. And this week, and we split the show into 2 parts, Wednesday and Thursday in general. So we had a show yesterday where we recognized the work of the players under 1,000, and today the players over 1,000. Now we'll move on to Mark, who is moving from the 15 to 1600 group to the 16 to 1700 group, and writes, I discovered the dojo last year, but wasn't quite ready to commit to the hard work that would be necessary. I kind of passively improved my rating enough to graduate, but didn't want to click the button since I was feeling somewhat ambivalent about how much I wanted to commit. I'm back now with the desire to break out of my plateau and find chess enlightenment. That's definitely one of the things we peddle. I've bought all the books recommended for my rating band, and I've been thoroughly enjoying them so far. Yeah, nothing but classics in the book recommendations, pretty much. Just classics, classics, classics. Greatest books ever written. Not too many books, just the best ones, right? Hoping to see the effort pay off for the next rating band, I'm going to do my best to cut back on unhealthy habits like endless online blitz and be more mindful of the things I need to do to improve. If that's what you're feeling like doing, Mark, then that's what you're going to do. Hey, Mark. Are you this Mark Ochre Armband? Or are you just another Mark? Okay, USCF rating currently at 1,700. Up 150 points. Mainly from some results, some tournaments last summer. Next, graduation's not far away. But I guess from playing online, you feel like you're a little bit more at a plateau. No, your rating's going up online as well a little bit. 1,900 is a very healthy Chess.com rapid rating to correspond to your USCF rating. Let's see what you like to do. This is you. Okay. Well, nice to see you. Glad you're feeling good right now. Let's see. Current goal is 2,000 USCF. Okay. So that's 2,000 USCF. If I go back to the ratings, tactics level is coming out at 1,800. 2,200 on one of the most recent tactics tests is nice. 1,900 rapid is promising. There's definitely work to be done, but yeah, I mean, it can be done. This looks good. You're playing your game's analysis, doing some tactics, and working on your end game. Looks good to me. And what we see is, that there's some real activity on the heat map in the last 3.5 weeks. Some classical games, some training in different kinds. Wow, you got to play against a master? In a tournament. DCC. Dallas Chess Club, maybe? Denver? Okay. This game was most certainly an odd one. This is from my local club's weekly meet. I had gotten a bye for this round, but I still wanted to play chess, so the TD was kind enough to see if he could arrange something for me. He ended up getting a game for me against the club's life master, who agreed very graciously to simultaneously play against his official paired opponent and me. My nerves were uncontrollable. Shaking, nervous mess, second-guessing everything. Should be confident in my abilities. I lasted far longer than I thought I would, and according to this Mr. Life Master, I played better than his other opponent. He complimented me, saying that I played well and I should be proud of how I did. I definitely have reason to be confident in myself since I can play well, even against some toughest opponents. Yes. It is no use to spend your precious chess playing time quaking in your boots and shivering and all that, right? Better to enjoy it fully and just go for it. Yeah? Yep. I missed the mute button. All right, thanks, Okra Armband. Hey, Faster Wyverns. Sorry about that. I thought I clicked on the button successfully. Welcome back to me. Welcome to our raiders. Thank you for the raid, Froya Chess. Feel free to tell us about your stream if you'd like to. Advertise it in chat to our viewers so they could click on that link and follow you if they are so inclined. For those of you joining us, we are getting towards the end of our graduation show for this week. Every week we honor those players who have done the work and done the work long and consistently enough to have gained another 100 rating points and moved up to the next level of our training program, which starts at 0 and works its way all the way up to 2,400 plus FIDE. All right, so you challenged the queen's control of the center here. You also kind of wanted to play e5, which I think is a standard move in this position. I think that's a main theoretical move. Let's see what happens with queen b6. Your opponent trades, and gives you all the doubled pawns. Yeah. You're an old woman at 34? Ay, that hurts. That hurts. Young people should be very careful about throwing around the word old. What's chess like in Norway these days? I've got another shout out to give already. You just had a birthday. You forgot your own age. Well, if you've forgotten your age, then you do get to start calling yourself old, I think. The Chess Runner. Thank you. The Chess Runner. Getting older by the minute. Yeah. No, I see. You're fighting immediately to prove you are old. But happy birthday to you. Oh, it's about to go downhill, Okra. Good luck. Or I guess I should call Okra Mark. Since we're looking at Mark's profile right now, and Mark's game and Mark's graduation. But greetings, everybody. Quick question from iBenedict. Says, what can I do, David, if I don't have anyone in my cohort that wants to spar with me? I'm in the 22 to 2300 cohort. Ask somebody in the cohort 1 above you and 1 below you, Benedict. I am in the cohort 1 above you and would love to spar with you. I accept in advance. This coming week, starting tomorrow, I'm covering the Grand Slam in Weissenhaus. So there's going to be 1 week where I won't have much availability. Well, I just won't have much energy or time. The week after, I'll be ready to train again. Okay, so you get yourself into this endgame. I like that you weren't scared to trade into an endgame against a master. But I guess maybe you were. You just did it anyway. E6, covering some holes in the center. Yep, disallowing knights from living there. Got to keep those knights out. Doubled b-pawns are the key weakness of the position. The pawn island here is pretty strong, yep. But they also create a wall around the bishops, so they have to find their life. You need the position to open up for the bishops at some point. Yeah, you have to find your play, you know what I mean? And your e6 move is totally reasonable, but we also have to look at this position from kind of a lively perspective, right? Mark, we have to say like how do we get stuff cracking and popping, right? So for example, you can also consider a continuation like rook g8 poking this pawn, and if they play g3, you play f5. I'm not promising you that this is good, right? I'm just saying you can look at options like this as well as playing a simple move like e6. Because this is looking to, wake up bishops. Maybe this one will go on this diagonal. Now, the danger here is that your opponent can do something like knight d5 because you didn't play e6. And now you get into calculation. I don't know how you feel about yield calculation, but now we're talking stuff like takes, check, here, takes, here, and then sort of evaluating, is this, better or worse than what you had before? Do you want this position or not, etc., right? So to me, this looks slightly bad for you, slightly risky to go for this. You've basically sacked an exchange, but you've taken out your opponent's center pawn for your B pawn, which is almost like winning a pawn, right? And a strong center plus a bishop pair can put up reasonable competition against a knight and a rook. So it's interesting. Like, it gets the game lively, and it's something you can consider. I'd have to calculate longer to tell you if it's a good or bad idea, because there's some other branches to it. But we want to look for something spunky at some point, right? And that's what you're alluding to here, right? I need the position to open up at some point. I'm agreeing with you about that. Okay, knight d4. And you say, yeah, you can have my bishop pair. Oh, and you're trying to stop this knight b5. Yeah, knight b5. That's a good idea, stopping knight b5. What you were expecting was b4, and you were going to go here, here, trying to open this. That makes sense. I think the problem is, but this is high level, but your opponent doesn't have to play g3 in order because of rook takes g2, right? They can first maybe try to condemn this guy and then play here. And now you don't have f5 anymore. Now you got to extricate the rook before it sort of gets trapped in there. Maybe it's still fine and playable for you. I don't know. It's interesting. Okay. Rook a5. Oh, it's really a tricky position. Nice. You give it a dubious mark, but I like this. Move anyway. Yeah, you're going for activity. This is good stuff. I can see why your opponent complimented you afterwards. I would strongly consider rook c5 right here. The point of rook c5 is simply to take at some point and then take their center pawn. It also prevents this move b4 that you've been correctly worrying about every move. Like, you know, calculating and taking into account. Yeah, rook takes c3. You'll sort of hurt their pawn structure plus get a center pawn for an exchange, and then play with the bishop pair against whatever's left. Okay, bishop e7, rook here. Rook c5 gets a question mark. Okay. Everything you're doing is great, actually. I mean, you're just worried about it all. This is great endgame play, too. Okay, bishop d4, rook d4. How to evaluate this? Ugh, the king of pawn ending's losing, huh? It does look like white's going to do this very, very fast. Man, super high level. Uh-oh, this looks bad. You should trade. Okay, let's see what he explains. He also gives it a double question mark. Giving up full control of the d-file, I was definitely feeling the pressure of the position, my opponent, and the clock. I was extremely concerned about losing my b-pawns and just getting steamrolled on the queen side. Ironically, this move exacerbates that problem. I thought I had to fight back in some way on the king side. Oh, and again, I mean, don't underestimate Mark. The idea was to play this move, not to just hang a pawn, but to play this move and try and break through. But white can give the h-pawn, and it's a little bit slow. Black comes back around trying to do something. We get poked. Man, you're still fighting. You're fighting. How many double question marks can you play and still have a decent position? Ouch. Wait, why does it say white wins? Isn't the game still going? Begging white to trap my rook. Very silly mistake, played hastily. My position was already pretty dire. I mean, just take this pawn? What are we resigning about? 1 minute on the clock? When in the game was your position better than this? Whoops, sorry, mouse slip. Oh, and there's check. I mean, like, you might be losing, but, you know, you play this position. No one else is, you know, no one else is going to resign this against you, so don't you resign it against them. Okay, so basically all we've got here, Mark, is a lack of confidence during this game, right? Other than the confidence, I mean, you, like, fought toe-to-toe in an extremely difficult position. I would have been running out of time. I would have been hesitating over these decisions against a player this strong, just like you, but I just would have had more confidence. You know? Like, what you were going through is like a tough test. That's what it's like to play against a master. You got that feeling, right? Incredible pressure. You know, you could win or lose. You know, you could lose for any number of tiny reasons at any point. They leave threats hanging over your head. You know, you calculate the most forcing line and defend against it, and they just keep the pressure up with something else. You got to feel all that. But really, one thing that you can control is your attitude, right? You can't control if, like, they're better than you and, like, come up with some ideas that you can't handle, and sometimes you lose a game. But I've kind of accepted that in advance, right? That every now and then my opponents are going to play so well, they're just going to beat me. And I just go for my ideas the best I can and, you know, and play my heart out. And that's it. Right? And that's the only thing that you can do. And, yeah. So next time around, confidence. This was hopefully a great experience, though, too, because you played such a great game. I mean, it might be better than any game you ever won before. And hopefully that's like a really good, you know, growing and developing experience for you to play a game that's that good. Can help you get even much better. Cool. Well, I can't wait to see how you play next week after going through that experience. All right, now I've got Want to Win Bad in the same cohort as Mark. Excuse me. They've got 4 graduations under their belts, 160 points gained on chess.com Rapid. Wouldn't you normally need like 300 plus points to have 4 graduations? Has a USCF rating that's gone up 140 points as well, which is nice. Activity, a lot of endgames. A lot of endgames. No game from Want to Win Bad. Want to Win Bad. Well, what can I say? Give us some games to look at next time, Want to Win Bad. I'm sure you can do it. Hey, Summoner. How are you doing? All right, Rue Trottles is using FIDE as their main rating, and look at that, 1895, very close to the next graduation already, and 287 points of FIDE improvement, three badges for graduations already, very nice. What was the message I wanted to convey? I don't know if I wanted to convey a message, so folks, Summoner over on YouTube is asking me about a song that I just put up on my personal YouTube about Thanksgiving. And basically the story is my uncle came into town to visit for Thanksgiving, and we were hanging out a day before, and he said, I recently learned that you make rap songs. And I said, yeah, like, how have you not heard? I thought everybody in the family, knew that I have been dabbling in that for a while. And yeah, thanks, Summoner. I am doing fine. Happy to be here. Happy to see you. And he said, well, I want you to give us a rap song about Thanksgiving. And I said, tomorrow? He said, yeah. So I wrote a rap song about Thanksgiving, to try and make my uncle happy. I still had to, take care of my kids because there was no school on Thanksgiving, and, we had to cook and prepare the, clean the house and stuff like that. So I had about an hour to write the song. So when you ask, like, what was the message I wanted to convey, this is basically like a quick exercise. This was not something that I spent weeks and dozens of hours crafting. There's not necessarily like a really deep intention behind it, but I did think that I found a little bit of a theme to it, and my theme is in the last line of the song, which says, it seems you can never be thankful enough. So to the extent that I found a message in an hour of working and thinking on this, the message was that we should be super thankful. And gratitude is something that I try to practice with my children on a daily basis. I'm trying to teach them to be grateful for what they have. It's not working so far, but it's one of the focuses of what I'm doing as a parent, is trying to teach them gratitude. And Thanksgiving, the name of the holiday is about giving thanks, right? It is about being grateful. So that's what I was trying to do. It is not about the country turkey, no. It's about turkey, which is the typical food people eat on Thanksgiving in the United States. It's not the food that I was going to serve my uncle because I am vegetarian. So the three verses in that song are about the history of Thanksgiving, which I did a little bit of research on very quickly. And then the refrain is kind of like a silly thing that you would only understand in terms of my family. Like, my uncle's he's kind of like anti-woke, so he probably thinks it's very woke of us to not kill turkeys for food and to be vegetarian. And so I just tried to play around with that idea in kind of like a funny way that wouldn't be, aggressive between him and me. Like, yeah. I didn't want to spend Thanksgiving upsetting him. So I tried to be kind of funny. All right. Rutrottles. Up several hundreds of points. Hasn't done any checkmate or tactics tests, so we don't really know how good they are at tactics just yet. Heat map is not showing up for me. What if I put it in terms of points? Will it then show up for me maybe? No. Activity. Played some games. Yeah, we don't have a lot of info on what Rutrottles has been doing to get up here. Let's see if they've given us a sample of games to know. No. Okay. So I guess Rutrottles is probably doing the work without logging it. Just going through the task list, doing the work, raising the ratings, obviously, as we saw on their first page here, right? So obviously they're doing the work and they're improving, and you can see it's not just one burst, it's steady improvement, then a burst, more steady improvement, more steady improvement. So yeah, I mean, keep up the good work, Rutrottles. We're all rooting for you, and congratulations on your graduation. Yeah. That's fine, Summoner. Yeah. It wasn't about Turkey, the country. Indeed, Spiders Laton. I have yet to meet a single anti-woke person who even knew what the word woke meant. That is true.